Welcome back, my sisters. Let's take a deep breath together. Exhaling out the mouth. One more time. And let's go ahead and just move our neck side to side. Allow ourselves to stretch just a little bit. Who has been here since the beginning? Raise your hand. Linda, Rose, Wynn, Julia. So many of us. Wow. It has been so beautiful and so amazing. And I feel so humbled and grateful to be in circle with all of you. It's truly an honor. It's truly something palpable. And the presenters today have blown me away. This last break, when we were listening to the song with Oshun, I cried tears of just being moved so deeply. And I want to just reintroduce myself for those who are just joining for the first time. My name is Lauren. I'm the founder of Global Sisterhood, and my partner, Shayna Connors, and I steward this mission. And we're about to have our last panel, our finale of the day. And after our panel, I invite you to stay on for just a few more minutes so that Shayna and I can have a chance to share a little bit about the Global Sisterhood mission and how we can all continue to be in this energy as stewards of this mission, as stewards of our great rebirth, of the future of our planet. And so with that, I am so incredibly honored to present my friend and someone who I absolutely look up to and love. Her name is Sarah Drew. She is the author of the Gaia Codex. I'm going to repeat this, the Gaia Codex. Read this book. And if you have a teenage daughter, have her read this book. It is exactly about what we're talking about. It is the medicine of the feminine live and in action. It's a novel. I won't say more other than it's an eco-feminist visionary tale, and it is something that is truly remarkable. And Sarah Drew holds such wisdom, gnosis, experiential wisdom in her being, and is supporting the visions of so many women to come into fruition. So Sarah Drew, are you here, my dear? I'd love to pass the baton to you for you to introduce your panel.
Wow. So amazing to be here with all of us. I'm just feeling the power and the potency and the just true medicine of all of us gathering, women across the globe, and all the amazing speakers, presenters who have come forward, offering their knowledge, offering their medicine. We have an amazing panel of women here, which I'll be introducing in a moment. I've really been thinking a lot myself about what the medicine of the feminine is for these times. And I don't know about all of you, but I woke up this morning in prayer and I was in that hum, that shudder, that vibrant moment where Shakti is moving through all of us. Shakti is bringing the aliveness of the feminine awakening and awakening in many, many forms. You know, the medicine of the feminine in these times is a deep look into how we heal, how we create. It is a personal, collective alchemy of our regenesis as a species in relationship to each other and to our Mother Earth. Because we're in the weaving times, the dissolution and the creation. We're in these times of the seeding of new stories, new myths, the reclaiming of our ancient knowing. And what is revealed is that the past and the future is a circle, it's a sphere, it's a state of consciousness, the Ouroboros meeting itself. It's the fertile womb of the feminine. It all begins here in this sweet spot, between our personal awakening and our collective regenesis. My work is as a weaver, a storyteller, a deep listener, yes, to those stories which are truly regenerative, which give us life, that honor the elements, earth, wind, fire, water, that honor the wisdom of Mother Gaia in all forms of life. And my novel, Gaia Codex, is a story about an ancient lineage of women that through the rise and fall of cultures have regeneration codes and have tended these regeneration codes for the planet. These women become from all walks of life, all different ethnicities. And when there's a time of cultural transformation and cultural collapse, these women come together to birth the world anew. And we're at this time. And we're at this moment where we are the alchemical vessels, the alembic for the medicine of the feminine. And this is a glorious task of many, many hands. If you're called here today, this is a glorious task for you and for us together. And as women, we have this opportunity to really nurture in the heart of our wombs, which is the center of the universe, from which all creation is created, this medicine of the feminine, this deep well of being for all beings now and through time. And so I just want us to imagine and feel that holy golden nectar, that amrita, that healing nectar that's like honey in its viscosity, that is like the sun in its color. I feel that emanating out in your heart and from your womb. And know that this is your medicine. This is our medicine. And we're here as healers, as wise women, as medicine women, as students and as teachers. And every one of us are in that student and teacher. We're both. Hear the hum, the sacred music. Feel the vibration. And know that this honey nectar, this medicine, will go into 1,000,000,001 forms. And that you, as a woman, have a medicine to bring that's very specific for these times. We're here to bring nourishment and revelation and love and healing. We're here as the multiple arms of the goddess, she of infinite forms. And in this spirit, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to our amazing panel of wise women who will be taking us on shamanic journeys into different experiences of the medicine of the feminine, she of many forms. Our first speaker is a dear friend and sister, ally and co-creator, Magdalena Satori. She's the originator of the Yin Institute and the Yin Initiation, which were created with the intention of further expanding the space for the feminine and the yin, so that we can move to the next level of our evolution as integrated beings, remembering our gentler, emotional, intuitive side. Magdalena is also the co-founder and creative director of the assemblage in New York City, which for 4 or 5 years was a nexus point in 3 different locations for consciousness, feminine wisdom, technology, earth wisdom. And she's also the architect and designer of spaces. She holds master's degrees from Columbia University and École Polytechnique, Federal de Lausanne. She's the founder of the Ashram Studio, a creative studio and think tank to address the urgency for humans to live in a more harmonious relationship with our environment and Mother Earth. Magdalena, it's all yours for 10 minutes.
Mm. Thank you, Sarah, for this invitation, for your friendship and sisterhood. And thank you for Global Sisterhood also for having us. It's been magnificent to be part of this circle today and to come together in this specific moment of humanity to arrive here in a circle of women and envision where we are going. I was tuning into last year as I was right here where I am now in Bacalar, in Yucatan, in Mexico, going into my second year of my Nunans with my Mayan grandmothers. And on March 6th last year, we were still in a very different world. And we entered a portal exactly around this time where everything started shutting down and closing. And I feel that it's been a real year of awakening of the feminine, because we have been provided with an opportunity to be and to stop doing so much and running around and moving and directing things outside of ourselves. And by presenting this opportunity of stillness, the world has allowed us to get in touch with that feminine realm of the receptivity of what I call the yin, this space where we can just listen and receive and be in stillness and in silence. And what a beautiful gathering today, to gather in women to honor this moment, this 1 year cycle, this sun cycle that for me is the entering of a new realm, of a new possibility. And of course, I want to acknowledge the pain and the suffering that this year brought to many of us. But the opportunity is too beautiful to not be acknowledged. And so I thank you, all of you, for being here and being part of what's coming. For me, my main connection to the feminine realms has been through the moon herself, and not the moon as something external of myself, but a reflection of my own rhythms. As we know that this celestial being that goes around the earth regulate our own wombs. And for me, understanding the connection between the moon realms and the womb realms has been the biggest mystery of my life. And she's there to remind us and to reflect us our cyclical nature, which is why I created the Yin Initiation and the Yin Institute this year, is to spread this knowledge that we are cyclical beings and to help us re-empower ourselves of that aspect of our nature. We are cyclical beings living in this linear world that has been created by men for men, and that doesn't create space for us to go through the cycles that we go through. So for me, by looking at the phases of the moon and the different aspects that she represents in her different variations, it's a way of feeling my own cycles and feeling my own changes and my own patterns, which are not erratic and not chaotic, but how we have been taught, but they actually follow very specific cycles and very specific patterns and specific algorithms. And I believe that by tuning into and awakening this womb space, this space of creation, the space of where nothingness can become life, by awakening this space, we can reconnect with everything around us, with the universe itself. And by empowering ourselves in those different archetypes that we carry with us. The moon goes through these 4 archetypes of the virgin, the mother, the enchantress, and the crone. And we are all of these things. We are not just virgin and mother as we are taught so in this patriarchal society, but we are also the dark aspects of the feminine, of the enchantress and the crone and the wisdom of the crone. And I wish for this new world that is coming to make more space for the crone archetype to be empowered, and for more circles like this one to bring forth the wisdom of experience, because women have such deep experience through what they go through, their menstruation, the cycles, the connection to nature, to their own intuition through their womb, that accumulation of experience becomes wisdom with age. And today we're not looking for that wisdom in our grandmothers. We are making, most of us are becoming shells because we are disempowered of that wisdom, and that wisdom needs to be shared. And that has been my path as a moon dancer, has been to learn from the grandmothers and to sit with the grandmothers and to look at my own womb and how I can go through these experiences by honoring the moon herself as our ultimate teacher. And the feminine for me is also the crone, yes. The feminine for me also, the experience of the feminine comes only once we accept our own bodies, and through the embodiment of the spirit, through arriving into our vessels and to moving out of our head or mind space. We think that our consciousness lives just behind of our eyes, but it actually lives in our whole body, and there is such deep intelligence and wisdom in our body itself. And Mary Magdalene has also said that this phase that is coming goes through the descent into the body, moving from the head to the heart, moving from spirit to matter. And that is what womanhood is about for me, of being able to bring spirit into matter and being a bridge between these two things. So in this yin, when I created the yin initiation, I come from a very traditional background where I studied in major universities. I had my own private equity fund. I did real estate development until I created this community of people in New York City last year. And now this year has brought me the opportunity to really focus on bringing more stillness and bringing more listening to the women around me. I have been hosting circles for many years, and the Yin Institute was created as a voice for the feminine, because I think the feminine is a circle. Like Sarah said, the feminine is a collective. It's none of us really can embody the feminine unless we are sitting in a circle. That's how the feminine operates. And I have been leading these Yin initiations for 28 days, where through different practices of embodiment, we tune into the phases of the moon and the different energy of those phases, so that we can embody all the aspects of the self, and therefore be the virgin, be the mother, be the enchantress, and be the crone, because we need all of these aspects to come forth to create our future. And I'm really, really looking forward to see how this future looks like, and to co-create with all of you here. So thank you for having me in this space, Sarah.
Magdalena, wow, thank you. I want to thank you also just for really helping to, for me personally, presence the moon in new ways. And many of you have probably had the joy of having a sister who may be halfway around the world, and you know that you're up there looking at the same moon, and whatever phase she's in, that you can tune in and feel the moon ripple through your body, feel the moon ripple in resonance to the Mother Earth. And it's a web of connection. So thank you. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is a living tradition in herself, and Juanita Roberson. We've had the chance to be on one panel together, and I have to say it was like having lightning strike me. Juanita is an entrepreneur, a coach, a consultant, an organizational shaman, and motivational speaker. She's dedicated to forgiveness and reconciliation in the world. She says, I started my healing journey at a young age. I'm a shaman. It has taken me a long time to grow into this, to grow into me, mostly because I never quite understood why a person would choose this life. Now I understand that it chooses you. To me, that just says everything. And Juanita's recent work has included work with the Kellogg Foundation, Truth, Racial and Healing, Transformation programs and People's Actions, Heartland Initiative. She is on the ground. She is holding a lot of ways for us to dialogue, to start to make the bridges that need to be made at this time. And without further ado, Juanita, it's wonderful to have you here and look forward to immersing with you for 10 minutes.
Thank you. Let's start with a song. Yemeyao, ago, ago yo yemeya. 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 I just wanted to start. That song is actually resonating in me since the last section of today, and wanted to speak Yemeya into the center. And when I was first introduced to that song through a dear friend, Barbara McAfee, she shared with me the story about where this song came from, and that this piece that she envisions every time she sings the song of these slaves being on the ship being taken from Africa to the States here in America, and some of them choosing to dive and jump into the water and give themselves to Yemeya and letting her save them. Sarah, thank you so much for the invitation to be here with you all. I'm just really excited. It's been a full week, and to have the closure of my time with a group be here just seems like, icing on the cake. So I'm so grateful. Some of the work that I'm up to these days is I actually have finished co-authoring a book with a friend called The Underground Railroad. It's a 40-day journey to remembering soul and spirit. And we expect it to be out sometime this year. And the book is about how do we all find our freedom. The woman I co-write it with is a white woman from the Kentucky side of the Ohio River, and me being a Black woman from the Cincinnati, Ohio side of the Ohio River. And the book talks about both of our journeys to freedom, and then we help to usher you through yours. And one of the things that I love is that, this book, it's been writing me, I would say, for the past 10 years. And I haven't always been, grateful or gracious about it, but it has, and it's so connected, I think, to initiation and to the feminine. And I want to talk a little bit about that. First of all, why it's important to be talking about initiation now. I think that one of the gifts that this time has given us is, I always say, what better gift than a pandemic to give to a culture that has forgotten how to grieve. And so we get to come back, and what grief gives us, it gives us the release so that then we can open up to receive more of that which we say we want. We live in a culture that has such a adolescent adult culture. And the problem with that is if we don't have initiated adults, we can't have initiated elders. And if we don't have initiated elders, we can't initiate the youth. And it becomes this vicious cycle. So one of the things that I see playing out time and time again in our culture is this desire to have all of the freedoms and none of the responsibility, which is such an adolescent thing. And Bill Plotkin's book, Soulcraft, one of the things he talks about is the journey to spirit, which is the collective we, is an ascending journey. And he says, actually, it's a masculine journey. He says, that's why we have more ministers and priests that are men than women. And he says, the journey to soul, which is a descending journey, is a feminine journey. That's why we have more witches than warlocks. And what I love about this is that you can only be initiated through the feminine. And so one of the things that as women, we need to have two births, two by the feminine. We get birth into this life as children, and then we get birth again into our initiated adult self by women. Men have two births. First one is birthed by their mother, and the second one has to be birthed by what they call a male mother or a nurturing man. And that's still the feminine. And because we've exiled the feminine, we've been missing out on initiation. We've been missing out at growing up. Lots of us are just growing older, but we're not growing up. And there's a need for us to grow up because I actually think it's the most underutilized resource that we have. We each come with a unique genius to tend to one issue or issue here on the planet. And we're not getting access to that because we're not stepping into our own genius. When I woke up one morning, when I was thinking about this piece around, okay, if the ascending journey to the spirit is a masculine journey and the descending is a feminine journey, then how does that relate to this human walk? And so what it hit me is that the spiritual journey, the collective we, is held by the masculine and the individual I is held by the feminine. But on the earthly physical journey, it's just the opposite. The collective we is held by the feminine and the individual I is held by the masculine. And that's how spirit creates balance between heaven and earth and the masculine and the feminine. And we're constantly trying to figure out our own place in this balance. We have, the feminine can support us in so many ways. And I think I do a lot of circle work. And circle work, I think that we actually have misunderstood the balance of the feminine and the masculine in circle. I also often think that we think the container of circle is feminine, but I actually think it's masculine. I think what the container and the holding allows us to do is to jump into it. And the feminine is actually what swirls inside and what moves and that energy that's inside. But we as women, because masculine and feminine isn't relegated to men or women, we each carry both. We can hold both at the same time. What I think is often a challenge when we're holding spaces where we're part of circle is that we're being asked to do both. Often we're asking ourselves to hold the container and to dive in at the same time. And you can't go in all the way without a partner. That's why I usually go into circle with someone else to hold the container so that then we can pass it off. Then we can do it together. In this time where there is this huge rise in the feminine, one of the things that I've often seen is that the feminine can often show up in a very masculine way. And so, I was doing a feminine wisdom retreat years ago, and one of the lines in the collective poem that we wrote, a woman said, and it was a I come from poem. And this woman says, I come from women who learned how to be women from men. And I'm going to say that one more time because she says, I come from women who learned how to be women from men. And I think there's a time for us to remember who we are, to remember that we're spiritual beings having a human experience and not the other way around. So often we live this life like we're human beings having a spiritual experience at times. But if you really get that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, everything is different. We see things different. We move through the world different. Everything shows up for us in a different way. A couple years ago, probably about now 6 years ago, a friend asked me, okay, what question if you knew it would change your life forever? And I said to him, oh, I have no idea. And he says, okay, so what question could you live into for the next 2 years? And my question was, what if I really did believe that everything was in divine order? How would I move through the world differently? What questions would I ask differently? How, how would I treat people differently? How would I treat myself differently? And that question has been working me, time and time again, I come up against it. Whenever I find myself struggling, it's a cue to myself to ask that question. What if I really, really did believe everything was in divine order? And to me, the feminine knows that. The feminine knows that it's all in divine order, that there's a time for birth and that there's time for death. There's a time for quiet and stillness, and there's a time for action. And I think that what we are called to do is we're called to use our power to say when enough is enough, and when it's time to rest, and when it's time to go. I'm so grateful to be able to have had this time with you all, and excited about just this journey, and just hooray, how brave to be audacious enough to think that we could gather like this and share some of our wisdom with each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Juanita. I always feel that when I'm talking with you that I'm just right next to the campfire of life. And yeah, really an honor to have you here. And I have more questions, but in the question of answer, we'll dive in a little deeper. Our next guest, our next sister coming up is a woman who's dear to my heart, a co-collaborator and a force in nature herself, Claire Dubois. Probably many of you have heard of her. She's the founder and CEO of Tree Sisters, a global women's movement spanning multiple countries that has collectively funded the planting of over 15 million trees. Did you hear that? 15 million trees. Tree Sisters is a social change movement and tropical reforestation organization working towards normalizing cultural reciprocity with nature. And it's also a wonderful way to be in sisterhood. They just have amazing ways that as women are giving, they're also connecting deep in circles of sisterhood. The aim of both Claire and Tree Sisters is to make it normal to give back to nature, as it currently we take nature for granted, while supporting humanity in its transition from a consumer species to a restorer species. Without further ado, because you're going to want to listen to every moment of Claire. Claire, so wonderful to have you here and to be together again.
Bless you, Sarah, and thank you, Magdalena and Juanita. I'm having the Juanita lightning bolt experience. So I feel like I need to shake my backside, even though I'm sitting down, and I want everyone to go, ooh, because it's like, oh my God, these three completely unique transmissions of women. I mean, let's just feel the essences of Sarah and Magdalena and Juanita and just go, my God, the goddess is extraordinary in the different ways that she manifests herself, the different textures of women and how we affect each other. And, I really want to sit with that understanding that we really affect each other. And there's alchemy in that, and there's power in that, and there's fear in that for a lot of us. And there's potency even in the fear of that, because I think it's because we affect each other so strongly, because we are so incredibly receptive and intuitive and instinctual, because we're so porous to energy and so able to receive and transmit, that our togetherness is so powerful. Our togetherness is so powerful. We've spoken a lot about circle today. I think we all have different relationships with circle. To me, I see it always as a birthing circle, as something else that's trying to come through. And that it will always have its way with us, and it is always unpredictable. And our job is to show up in circle and to let it have its way with us. And how we arise and arrive is very much to do with, again, what Juanita just said. What if we really believe that everything is in divine order? What if we really believe that the ingredients in every circle are the exact ingredients needed for something to surface in us that is ready to be surfaced? What if we can always surrender in some way to the something greater that is trying to have her way with us? I want to speak a little bit to the shadow, because the shadow for me a lot these days is around the suppression of the feminine, the different ways that the feminine has been suppressed, because she's rising. And as she's rising, up is coming everything that's been in the way. Up is coming what has been undealt with, unreconciled. And as a Western woman, especially those of us of European descent, the stain of the witch burning sits with all of us. And I can say the witch burnings for 300 years did their extraordinary damage as women were torn asunder from themselves and from each other. But the burning times are still going on. They're happening in Africa at the moment. What's happening to women and has happened to women has taught us away from ourselves, has pushed us underground in many of our deep capacities, has caused us to fear some of the aspects of ourselves that are the truest, the most beautiful, the most alchemical, the most extraordinary. I was watching the chat. There was some confusion about what Juanita said in terms of learning to be a woman from men. Juanita wasn't saying that we should be learning what it means to be a woman from men. She was saying a devastation that has happened in the psyche and bodies of women is that for many, many decades, hundreds of years actually, women have been conditioned to perceive what it means to be a woman and how to show up through the patriarchy. Not that that's right. Let's not even say that it's wrong in this moment, because somehow at some point we need to move away from polarity and right and wrong and just say, for whatever reason, here we are at the end of this weird experimental phase in which women have been taught away from ourselves. And yet, as Sarah so brilliantly says in the Gaia Codex, and if you haven't read it, please read this book. It will change your life. The deeper feminine river that holds us all is completely untouched, is pure, is wild, is unbridled, is love, is nature's consciousness, is Gaia, is fecund and fertile and ever creative and extraordinary. You cannot not be part of it. You cannot not have it moving through your body. You cannot not have access to it. We can believe that we don't have access to it, and we can certainly not feel that we are part of it, but it's not true. What's true is what's been done to us, yes, and the impact that it's had on us. What's truer is what is beneath all of it. What is beneath our fear, what is beneath the contortions, what is beneath the beliefs that we've indoctrinated ourselves with in order to cope with a circumstance that was outside of cosmic law. What I mean by that is the suppression of anything by anything just for the hell of it, for whatever reason that mankind stepped onto the throat of feminine kind. It's outside of cosmic law. Therefore, how we've internalized it, the beliefs that we carry, they're not true. Nothing is true because everything is sacred. The masculine is sacred, the feminine is sacred, man is sacred, woman is sacred, and everything in between is sacred. There is a process that I teach in Tree Sisters that I call sistering. Sistering is it's an energetic alchemical practice. And it is purely about presence. It is about the reality when you give someone or something your full presence. When you're not doing it, like I'm not staring at you from my eyes, I'm giving you my full presence, my whole body, my soul, sitting here in this beingness that I am, and I am witnessing you from all of me. When somebody sits with you completely, and that circuit of energy, that current of energy starts to move, that happens when two beings sit together, there's a third thing that becomes possible. And one of the things that becomes possible is a shedding, is an undressing. Because those two things are powerful. Those two women are powerful. That woman in that tree is powerful. That woman in that sky is powerful. Whatever it is that you're in partnership with, that circuit starts to generate a potency that is born of the two, that you can't do with your mind. You can only do in full presence. The magnetism of your presence starts to circulate energy in a way that starts to shed or bring up anything that is in the way of a deeper level of presence. Why am I talking about this? I'm talking about it because we're entering the time where how women are with each other is going to be critical to how we support each other, how we liberate each other, how we honor each other, and how we call each other forth. Because of the witch burnings, because of the insidious competition between women that was set up as a means of survival, because of that, it can be so difficult to feel part of when in a circle of women. For me, there's always a shadow there, the shadow of those that were cast out, cast down, thrown away, burnt, tortured. But there is always a fear amongst women of which one of us is going down. The circle was broken back then. It is in our hands now to heal that circle. And we do that by ensuring nobody is left out. Nobody is perceived as less than. Everybody is perceived as sacred. Everybody is included. And the way that I know to do that, and I'm just offering it here, is to make the choice to be in conscious sisterhood with every woman that you see, whether you know her or not. The real yoga is when you really don't know her, to look for her beauty, to look for the highest part of her. Because we're all insecure. If your insecurity arises significantly when in the presence of others, or especially when in the presence of those that you don't know, the way through it, the way to bypass it, is to look for the beauty in the other, look for the priestess in the other, look for the shamana in the other, look for the wise woman in the other, look for her magnificence and consciously start to celebrate it and call it forth. What that does is it automatically brings you into presence. It automatically brings you into a dynamic interaction with that woman that is going to deepen the connection. And who amongst us doesn't want to have the most intimate connection she can with everybody that she comes into contact with? This is a practice that you can use in every moment that you are in social situations, walking into a conference, standing at the bus. It's a way of using your soul to orchestrate silently and beautifully and generously a field of energy that is an invitation and a creation of safe space, because you're already looking for the beauty. You're already looking for the magnificence. You're not even prepared to buy into the stories that we're all dressed in about our crapness in this way and our whatever it is, neuroticism over there. You're not even buying into it. It's not in your field. It's not that it's not there. You're just not energizing it. You're not feeding it. You're choosing to feed the quality of sisterhood in that moment that calls forth the greatness in the other. And in doing so, you're bringing yourself into the greatness inside of you, which is that place of union, which is that place that says, we are all sacred. There is something greater than all of us here. How can I live in a way that calls it forth on behalf of all of us? On behalf of all of us. So when we sit in circle, it's the same thing. The circle cannot be static. The energy will always move. So it's always going to call up whatever's in the way of the deeper expression of what's wanting to come forward between you. So again, how can you sit there and look for and feel for the beauty, the magnificence? Does it mean that you're not going to be uncomfortable? No, it can be incredibly uncomfortable. But here's the thing. The discomfort and the beliefs that are associated with it are all part of the debris of unlove, which is not what we are. It's the unlove that we've been indoctrinated in by being considered less than because we're female, which is a lie. So in a way, the discomfort in our bodies that we experience with each other or in moments when life is calling us forth are the lies lifting out. I call it cosmic stain removal. You can turn towards it. You can love into it. You can love into it more completely. If you need help, you go find a woman and you just say, look at me as if I'm the goddess. And let her love you, and let the circuit that intensifies speed up the process. And it may feel revolting. And that is a celebration of the unlove lifting out. So I will just leave you with my prayer here. Not leave you really, because I'm not going anywhere, but leave you in this moment. I've no idea. I turned my screen, so I have no idea whether I'm at 10 minutes, but I'm assuming that I am. I'll just leave you with the knowledge that there is not one thing about any woman here that is not exquisite, sacred, and beautiful. And even the parts of us that we have forsaken and we believe to be less than, it's not that. It's unlove waiting to be left out. It's let out. It's unlove waiting to be liberated, to be alchemized, to be transformed into an experience of intimacy and belonging that is ours to create, and that we have all the power in the world to create. And thank you. And I apologize if I went over time. I have no idea.
Claire, thank you. It was wonderful. It reminded me in a way, this message of sisterhood and just of beingness, where, we're everything and we're nothing. There's a saying in Buddhism that at one point through many lives, everyone has been our mother. And the same to that, at one point, we are all of it. So thank you. This is always wonderful. Thank you for being here. So we're going to start into questions and answers, and there's going to be some opportunity. Lauren and Shana are going to be looking if you have direct questions that you'd like to bring on to the panel. We're going to go for about 15 minutes, then we'll have some questions from you, and then we're going to be closing with a prayer and a blessing from each of us. So as a first question, I would like to get from each of you a vision of what it's like to be a woman in 100 years. I'm going to leave it open at that, and you're open to your interpretation of it.
What it's like to be a woman in 100 years from now? Is that what you're asking?
Mm-hmm.
Blimey. I'll speak from the place that I feel. It's raw. It's much more immediately earthy. It feels like there has been a significant turning. It feels like there's a lot less of us, of all of us, of humankind, not just women. The quality of feminine leadership that I feel in 100 years is way, way more, what's the word? Naked at the surface, like in comparison, because I have the comparison of a future view in this moment. I can feel how submerged it is now, like it's on the rise, but how submerged it is. And then 100 years feels like it's right at the surface, like it's up, it's visible, it's being lived, it's immediate. There's an immediacy to it. And yeah, it's interesting. It has a texture of waves crashing on the beach. Like it's an immediate swelling, and the sound and the feeling and the effect of the water pulling the waves back. It's like it's right there. It's not having to ask for permission anymore. I don't know what's happened in the interim, but there's a lack of needing to ask for permission. There's a access for impact with an immediacy that we don't have now.
Thank you. And by the way, there's amazing, amazing dreamings in the chat right now that are happening from all of us gathered. Thank you. I'm catching one eye on that, one ear listening to Claire. Magdalena, do you want to go next?
Yes, I love that question because it kind of sent me to think of how it was to be a woman 100 years ago. And it feels like we already made so much progress. And if we know that time is exponential, like I feel a woman in 100 years is just a complete, I feel such liberation when I tune into that. And I feel the expansiveness, like woman taking space finally, and being able to express itself, herself, and being free and being seen, and together, sisterhood. Claire, thanks for that. I see sisterhood as one of the most important assets that a woman can have in the future, just a collective of women. So I see us together, yes.
Thank you, Magdalena.
Mm.
Juanita?
I think for me, I go to my integral theory background and thinking about evolution of consciousness. And I always say, you know, we don't get to choose whether we evolve or not. We just get to choose whether we do it the easy way or the hard way. But we're going. And so for me, some of it is that some of us will choose to have that openness that I hear you all speaking to, and enlightenment, and own our power. And because I do believe that we're spiritual beings who are having human experiences, it depends on what our individual souls need at the moment. I think the center of gravity will shift, of course, and evolve. And some of us won't choose that for the lifetime, even in 100 years, just like we're seeing now. When we would think, you know, if I was asked that question 100 years ago, I might have thought, you know, that now in some ways wouldn't look as far off as we are. And in other ways, I would be, you know, upset that we haven't gone further. And I think that the same will be true in 100 years. You know, one of the things that I do believe in, though, is at the end of the day, love always wins. And so this piece about stepping more and more and learning more and more about what it means to love ourselves and each other, and more of the understanding of not just we belong to each other, but we are each other.
I love that, Juanita. It seems we're at the center point in one way, past, future, 1,000 years past. We're here now. And I've been really feeling the spherical aspect, if you will, of time, that we and us together are at this center point. And whatever's happening right now in this present moment is the emanation point that shapes both our experience now, but the future and the past. Really, really living into that very deeply. Okay, next question coming up. I think Claire, all of us, there's been some speaking of this a little bit. In alchemy and in Tantra, they speak of turning poison into medicine, shit into gold. Speak to a personal experience where you had to transmute a painful experience or soul lesson. And what was the medicine? What was the feminine medicine that you were able to bring back as an offering to others on their journey and our journey together?
Oh my God. Try having a car crash where you're given the job of starting a global network to reforest the tropics when you are an introvert who doesn't understand what it means to be a woman and who is basically frightened of everyone and anything. And I could say the last 10 years of my life have been the most roaringly alchemical experience ever, 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 to go from like a screaming no into a fairly screaming yes, actually, ultimately. What does it mean when you choose to lean into a possibility that is something that life seems to believe in, that you have absolutely no connection to, in terms of when I had that car crash and this voice gave me Tree Sisters, I saw my future, and I saw this woman on stage. I saw this public figure. I saw this woman who knew how to run a global charity. I didn't know who this woman was, but apparently it was me. And I said no for 9 months. I got extremely depressed, and then I just got on with it. And the getting on with it is not a glamorous affair. The getting on with it is learning how to turn every moment that you fall down and get back up again into a dance move. Because if you do it enough times, you just start to seriously grow some muscles. And in the process of every time you fall over and you get back up, and every time you have to go, I don't know how to do this, and every time you don't know how to do it and you do it publicly, and it's just, you know, every time life invites you to, or invited me to show myself when I couldn't bear to be shown, you know, it's a very physiological, emotional experience of sitting in sensation that is asking to be felt, because largely the only reason we won't do things is because we want to avoid sensation. We want to avoid feeling a certain way that is hooked into a belief system about ourselves. I feel hideous, therefore blah, 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 you know, whatever the belief is that we've hooked into that. When actually we're not realizing that the hideousness is God knows what debris hooked into our nervous systems from experiences way before, that we've created belief systems to suppress ourselves, to avoid feeling those feelings. We've created survival strategies to avoid feeling those feelings. The shortcut being just decide to get on and feel those feelings. Don't identify with them, understand that it's cosmic stain removal, and that if you can just sit and feel and breathe and soften and allow, it changes. What you resist persists. What you accept transforms. What you embrace alchemizes. So I have become an expression of myself that is my gift to the world, which is a fairly fearless woman who will stand there not knowing very much about anything, believing that if I wear my heart on my sleeve and I express myself as authentically as I can, that I am walking permission for all women who want to believe from nothing, from feeling like they don't know anything and that they're not good enough and all the rest of it, that they can bring their heart forward in fierce love on behalf of what they believe in. So, you know, liberated love, that's what I've become. Fierce love, I've become somebody that will celebrate any woman given half a chance, somebody that's not afraid to walk into a room, somebody that will not accept this legacy of a devastated planet for our children. You know, I will now say, put me into any high-powered position you can possibly put me in so that I can be as disruptive as possible, so that I can give other people a chance to realize there's a different way. She didn't exist 10 years ago, or if she did, she was so deeply buried. But she came out because I allowed life to, you know, push me up through the sedimentary layers of my unworthiness to let the something greater that I am, that I had no idea what it was, be served into manifestation through humility before the greater life that is trying to live us all. And I think that happens when you just say, okay, guys, okay, life, okay, the goddess, okay, whatever, you know me better than I know myself. Just to do it, do me, you know, do me. I don't know who I am. Just, you know, call me forth, and our job then is to just say yes to every experience that comes and burn our way through the stuff that's
Thank you, Claire.
in the way.
So potent. I think I may have written that question for you. Juanita, Magdalena, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I would just say, you know, Melodoma Somé says that because we don't have traditional initiation practices here and our souls know we need to be initiated, we call up trauma to help our souls get initiated. And I think for me, you know, at 15, I went to court and pressed charges against my stepfather for sexual abuse. He was sentenced 90 days to be served on weekends. I lived with him during the week, and he went to jail on the weekends so he could work. And I signed my lease to my first apartment on my 18th birthday. And what that experience gave me, you know, then it didn't feel like a gift. But now, you know, I turned 50 this year, and having the experience of 35 years of healing under my belt has been such a gift and such gold in the work that I do in the world. And my understanding of community, my understanding of the importance of grief work, and my understanding of our own power in our yes in the world. That's what I would say, peace in the center.
Thank you. Love that, peace in the center. Magdalena?
So for me, I just want to say that for me, it's been about facing death. And very recently, I had to face a death in my soulmate in this life. Most important person that was walking this earth with me. And simultaneously had a miscarriage myself. So I had to experience death outside of myself and inside of myself in such an extreme way as the world was also shutting down and experiencing its own death. And I remember in this moment thinking that you're only given what you can handle, and thinking how this will only make me more powerful by going into the feeling, like not rejecting the feeling of the emptiness and death. For me, I felt it as emptiness, nothingness, as the disappearance of life in myself. And feeling it all like has been a blessing in a way, and I can really say it because it has made me, I have touched depths of my own being that I did not have seen otherwise. So it has expanded me as a person, and I think the more we can feel on the pain and the suffering, the more we can feel of love and surrendering. So it has been an incredible initiation, and I think that we are not prepared to face death in our society, and that is something that we need to speak more about, and we need to create more rituals around, and we need to create structures around it. And I was grateful that it happened in a time where I was spiritually prepared for it. So yeah, that's been my journey into the darkness.
Thank you, Magdalena. I think there's a blessing in a way to have these lives, or have a life where you have a life of many deaths. I know for myself, there's been, I would call them petite morts, because they're not the death of the physical self, but the willingness to completely let yourself die to oneself and be reborn within a life, and hold the continuity and memory of that. And each time there's that shedding, it brings us closer into, you know, what we're here to do. And I think for myself, just this deep essence of being in service to Mother Gaia, to being in service to life, and in being in service to, you know, the collective awakening of consciousness. And you know, I align very much with the Bodhisattvic vow, but, you know, if it takes lifetimes, I'm here, and I'm here right now, you know, and it's a very, very deep thing that when everything else is stripped away, it comes back to that. And, you know, that can take many forms, specific forms for me right now, but that essence is there. We're going to be going a little bit further. Lauren and China have given us 15 more minutes for those of you just to play with our questions, because there's so much richness here. And so we're going to do a couple more with the panel, and then we're going to open it up to our group here. This is very simple, really. What are 3 things we can do every day to bring more well-being and to help nourish a world where all will flourish? It's getting into the practical, but it also be the mystical.
I have 3.
Mm.
So the first one, and it's just an assignment I give to all my coaching clients, is mirror work. Every day, look yourself in the eyes in the mirror and just say, call yourself by name. I love you, Juanita. And notice what your mind does. Notice where it takes you. Notice the brain rats or whatever that go. And just don't judge them. Just notice them and let them go. And then do it again the next day. Then the other one is when you have decisions to make, when you feel you're at different crossroads, ask yourself the question, if I were loving myself, what would I be doing? The thing that I love about that question is we always know the right answer. We don't always have the capacity to do it, but we will know what the answer is. And then the third I would say is, it's kind of a tie. I guess I would say grief. To know that we can't grieve alone, that grief requires community, and find someone who can hold space, or someone's who can hold space for your grief, because we'll never go to the depth of it without having someone to hold space, because we're all afraid we'll drown in it, which means we can't get access to the gift of the wound of the experience. The grief gives our compassion depth. And so our own grief work will help us in the world. Those are my 3.
Thank you for that. Do you want to go next, Claire?
Oh, just everything that comes out of your mouth, Juanita. I like, it's really hard because I want to just like write it down, and I'm sitting here and I'm trying to be present.
You're recording.
I know, but it's also just like, there's such jewels, and you come out with them so fast, and actually each one of them is worthy of just sitting down for like a day and dropping into them, you know, and it speaks to the, you know, the depth of lived experience that you have, that you can be so just like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And then they're just these absolute, you know, they're lived truths that if you sit with them can like resonate through your body and re-steer your ship, you know, they're really meaty. They're meaty truths. I'll say my go-to in every moment, I'm a simple creature, is go outside. For God's sake, you know, whatever's going on in your life, just go outside, because nature is entirely sane. And I don't think many of us are terribly sane, especially when we're hooked into our laptops and our phones. I think we instantly disconnect, instantly. And if you go outside, and not just like go outside, but go outside and be present to nature, be present to the sky, be present to a tree in the way that you would be if your mother showed up, you know, actually connect, because as soon as you connect, it starts to bring you back. It's like the fastest way back to sanity for me. The second way I manage my crazy existence is to say thank you for everything. And I don't just say thank you for the good stuff. I say thank you for the shit stuff too. So when all hell breaks loose and I suddenly feel like my world is coming apart, it's the most extraordinary muscle to grow, to turn straight towards it and say, thank you. Oh my God, something's really trying to happen here. Life is really believing in me. I'm really believing in me. I've created these circumstances specifically to access something. Thank you. It doesn't have to be comfortable. Thank you. The more I can find gratitude for, especially the difficulties, the faster I grow up. That's how I grow up. I grow up by saying thank you. And the third thing is dance. because you cannot stay stuck and dance, because essentially what you're automatically doing is you're moving the energy in your body. So even if you're lost, confused, depressed, angry, in one of your own ridiculous stories and in a nightmare, put on some outrageous music, move your body and just try and stay stuck. You can't. So if all else fails, go outside, say thank you, and then wiggle your ass. That's me. Over to you, Magdalena.
Thank you. That's actually my first one, is to dance. Embodiment for me is everything. And that's what we do in our initiations. We dance 30 minutes every morning, every day. And to move the energy, because there's so much that gets stuck in our own bodies that we don't even know. And so if you dance every day, even if it's 5 minutes, just dance and like move it out of the body, so that we can be pure channels as we go through our day. And I would even add dance to the same music. You pick one song, dance to the same music. There's a huge storm here. I don't know if you can hear it. It's a thunderstorm.
Mother, you're saying yes.
So picking one song and dancing to the same song for 28 days for a whole moon cycle, to see how different you feel, how different you are in a whole cycle of our own body. My second one would be to just close your eyes. Sometimes we think that we live in this physical reality and there's so much more to what we see. And sometimes just closing our eyes for a few seconds can help us reconnect with the unseen walls that are there all the time. And my third one is that we can do every day is to work with dreams. I think there is a lot of information and guidance that comes to us in our dream space. And every night we have the opportunity to connect with the astral realms or with our own subconscious minds, and to journey into our inner selves. So putting the intention to work with your dreams at night and to find guidance in them.
Great, thank you. All of these are amazing. And again, seeing so much amazing feedback in the chat here. Lauren, do we have a couple questions that you've selected from? I wish we could just have all of us here and hear everything and all the women speaking live, but we'll take a couple of them.
Sure. Well, first of all, I must say that this panel, I have cried, I have laughed, and I have howled. I had to. Ow! I just had to. This is such an amazing conversation, and I'm honored to be a part of it. So we have a few questions that weave together quite nicely. So I'm going to present them all as one with some different facets and just let you all stew in that. So what's coming to me based on this conversation, especially the recent developments of the talk of death and alchemy and initiation, is how we began this beautiful day, acknowledging that we're on a threshold right now, an opportunity for a rebirth. And with that, there is death. There is literal physical human death. We see death in systems. We see death in nature. We're seeing a lot of death. And that fear that is brought up, and then the anger that is brought up because of all the hurt. And so we see this discord, we see all sorts of things taking place. And a lot of the question here is around, how do we care for the hurt people? How do we bridge this divide? How do we deal with dictatorship and this rise of trying to take back control? And so my question here is about the alchemy of this planetary death and rebirth that we're on, and what wisdom you have to share about the nature of how we ride this wave.
I'll jump in just briefly. I've had such a strange relationship with this this moment in history, I mean, I was haunted, if you will, by this moment in history for decades before it was happening. It would come to me in vivid dreams. It would grab me. Sometimes it would grab my whole being. And of course, I translated it into writing Gaia Codex, but it's such a pivot. It's such a moment of great opportunity. It's such a moment to alchemize the great sorrow. I was driving back from New York with my husband. We had to go through Long Island, and it was just bumper to bumper cars and buildings that were falling apart. And I was in tears as we were driving. This is not how we're supposed to live as human beings. And I think for me, it all starts within, and going back to like what Claire was saying, if there is a dictator in my life, either at a national or international level, what part of me has that? How can I heal that part that's in me? It all begins here. And what Juanita was saying, looking in the mirror, yes, holding love for yourself, but holding love for that tender part. I often do imagine you're at a table and there's often one part of yourself that's so tender that doesn't, you don't need, it's in the closet. You have to invite it to the table, and you have it sit down at the table, this part of yourself that doesn't feel like it fits, or that you just want to shove away, and feed it soup and nourish it and keep loving 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 it when it comes and it shows itself in those around us.
I will say thank you, Sarah. Paul Hawken, I think it was Paul Hawken, said, what if this moment isn't happening to us, it's happening for us? Mm-hmm. And really struck me when he said that, because our world is insane. Our world is terminally insane, which is why we're heading off a cliff, because it's not operating on behalf of life, it's operating on behalf of short-term wealth accumulation and the ascendancy of the few, if those few are white and male. And it is that was such an amazing thing you did, asking me to go 100 years into the future, because it suddenly made me think so much about Joanna Macy's deep time work, which says we're in this tiny little bubble that's like this big, we can't see beyond our own lives. Whereas if we were trying to say, how do we live as if 7 generations are going to be taken care of, your whole sense of your own life relative to time radically shifts. And it takes you out of self-orientation into a natural state of instant generosity, instant care. So our current world is run by an economy that requires the death of nature in order to thrive. We are literally shredding our life support machines in order to perpetuate a state of being that is chomping away at our life support machines. That is insane. We're all hooked into it. We all need to unhook. So there is a fracturing that needs to happen. It's going to be damned uncomfortable because we don't like change, and we've become complacent and convenience orientated and in a state of learned helplessness because we just have everything done for us. So we got some serious muscle growing up ahead, but there's a fracturing that has to happen, and it started, and it's only just starting. And, where I am at the moment, I've been talking to a lot of people who work with First Nations people. They've had this in their prophecies for forever, that we're heading into a place where it'll look like everything is going down. Well, to me, it already looks like that. And we're just in the very, very beginning. So first of all, I think really understanding that for the level of change that needs to happen to slingshot us around the back of the moon into a course correction where we shift, in tree sister speak, from an unconscious consumer species to a conscious restorer species, it requires a walloping great wallop, because we don't want to change. Okay, so we're in the wallop. Okay, so the Wallop has started, and every single one of us incarnated now specifically because we've got something gift to bring to the Wallop. Great. All right. So we've chosen to exist and be born at the most important moment in human history, where we get to redefine what it means to be human. We get to redefine what it means to be woman. Therefore, we get to redefine what it means to be a man. We get to redefine the whole human story based on, can we wake up to the illusion of separation fast enough to recognize that we are nature and that as we trash her, we're demolishing ourselves? The truth lives inside all of us. Therefore, what we're needing to do is to fall into the truth. Not like reach out and ask somebody to tell us, but to drop in so that we meet it coming up the other way. Again, the fracturing of the norm, as terribly uncomfortable as it is, makes available to us, like it breaks the bedrock up so that the truth can start to rise and we get to fall into that. So again, it's like this thing of, okay, turn into the skid, turn into the difficult feelings, turn into the not knowing. We don't know, we're not supposed to know. Knowing isn't anything to do with what we think we know now. There's a new knowing. So if you're confused, lost, disoriented, good, you're in the fracturing. You know, I call it free fall. It's like, embrace the free fall. You can only fall further into yourself if you surrender to the river of life that is carrying you. And amidst that, come back to these 3 things or the 6 things or the 9 things, whatever it was that we came out with, like come back to what brings you back to your center, gratitude. In the midst of all hell breaking loose, gratitude, what are you grateful for? Or focus on beauty, or go outside and talk to a tree, move your body. What helps you find your center amidst the chaos? It's the ultimate time for your own personal yoga. And I don't mean just stretching your body like a pretzel. I mean the yoga of learning how to stay in your center while all hell breaks loose. That grows muscles in places we didn't even know we had places, you know, and that's what we're doing. We're allowing the flaying of the falseness to surface the truth of ourselves and each other.
So one of my teachers has taught me the world is out to gift us, not to get us. And when we understand that, we ask very different questions. We don't ask, why is this happening to me, but why is this happening for me? And that changes everything. In my book, one of the things I write is we're all swimming in the water of what's right, real, and true as white and male. And that's the yardstick where we gauge everything by. And so many of the new systems that we're creating are still rooted in that yardstick. And the problem with that is that the yardstick doesn't include nature or God. And we're in the middle of nature, you know, we are nature, not even just in the middle of it. And so, you know, there's a call for us to create a new yardstick. Like one of the things I write, even this whole idea of, you know, in our country around race, that race is a white person's problem, or that white people need to be my ally. I always say, I don't want you to be my ally. I want you to save your own damn self. Until they realize that on that yardstick, we even gauge who's privileged and who's not. We gauge who's healthy and who's not. We gauge what's, you know, what's in service and what's not. But if we change the whole freaking yardstick, it's not privileged to be disconnected from your heart. And so, like, you know, this piece about can we each find what is your yardstick? And to me, that's the, like, the digging into your truth and the meeting yourself and the meeting your soul. I was with a friend who we were talking, she had just given a speech about courage one day. And she said for the first time, she noticed the word rage in the word courage. And she realized every bit of courage is a bit of rage in it. And then what that took me back to is Robert Bly's book, Iron John, where he talks about anger is personal, rage is archetypal. And then the core, the beginning of the first 3 letters in courage, or first 4 letters in courage, are from the heart. So heart rage. And what I started to wonder is, you know, what if when we choose and act courageously, what we're doing is that we're stepping out of individual personal fear into honoring a collective truth. And if we knew that, would it help us to choose to be courageous more often? And so I think that, whatever that is for us, wherever we feel that personal fear, because fear can be an invitation, not just a warning, maybe that's where we're being asked to lean into for each of us.
Thank you. So for myself, I spend a lot of time with people that are designing the new systems and thinking about the new systems. And then I realized that I don't believe in systems, I believe in humans. And what we're going through is not an economical or systemical crisis, it's really a consciousness crisis, because we just don't remember who we are anymore and what we're here for, each of us. And we are nature, like all of us said, that is what we are. We are a part of nature. And that's what I'm dedicating my life to see how are we going to reintegrate ourselves into these larger systems that are already there. We don't need to create new systems. They're already in place, and they're the moon and the sun and the seasons and the circadian rhythms. And we as women have a direct connection to these rhythms. So the more we learn to reintegrate ourselves, maybe we'll bring everyone else with us. So that is my piece of guidance for us in these times.
Very much. I want to just a little revelation I had recently that feels really potent to share. I always think about how we as women can unplug ourselves from the matrix or the system or this patriarchal ideas, and then we have the power to bend the matrix, to bend the paradigm. And so I've been thinking about it this way. And recently I've been on this journey of correcting my desire to please. The way I was taught to ensure people like me, and all of the problems and mechanisms that created for me. And I was in an experience with a few friends, and I was like, they were wanting to help me move from princess archetype to queen archetype, one who knows she deserves a seat at the table, one who knows that if there is a job to do, she is going to do it. And I said, yes, maybe it's the queen who bends the matrix. And my friend thought for a minute, and he said, no, Lauren, I don't think it's the queen that bends the matrix. It's the matrix that bends to the queen. So to me, I saw just a light bulb went off of, oh, the queen, the mother nature. I embody her and show up in full reverence and truth and devotion to her. The matrix bends to me, bends to her will, right? And I believe that's within all of us. And so in my little, my small perspective, I believe that is the medicine of the feminine, that reclamation of the mother inside of ourselves. And that is the medicine. With that, I will pass it back on to you for your closing prayers for this panel.
Lauren, ma. Well, we're each going to do a short, like maybe 1 to 2 minutes blessing or prayer. The language of the medicine of the feminine has many forms. For our panelists, it can be a song, it can be rattles with the instrument, it can be whatever you like. Everyone will go full round circle and then I'll complete.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle. How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Magdalena.
Mhm. I wish I had my instruments to use myself, but I don't. There is this Lakota song that is for the dawn, when the first light comes out, and that we sing in the moon dance when we see the first light coming out. And I think it's very meaningful as we are here in this dawn of humanity. When they are home, when they are home, when they are, ha 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 ha, hey ho, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm going to read a short poem and hope that it sits inside of 2 minutes. It's called You. Inside you, in the places where whispers carry memories, where you hold your breath, turn away, and believe yourself less, there is a truth. A truth as gentle as a melody, as limitless as the sky, as honest as a mountain lake, no push, no need to try. A truth that shimmers with the light of you, the bright of you, the irrepressible delight of you, the take my breath away flight of you, the I will not go silently into the night of you, the oh my God, just feel the might of you, the break me wide open sight of you. When at last you have embraced all of you, accepted the day and night of you, the luminescent, spontaneous grace of you. I want you to know I am in awe of you, all of you, every microcosmic, wild, orgasmic inch of you, every wild, unfettered gesture of alive of you. Thank you for you.
Shoyahi Asama Oma Oma Asami Ayama Oma Oma. Thank you for the profound blessing of this gathering, and may the medicine and the fruits of all of our words, all of our offerings, all of the offerings of all who are gathered here and all who will be listening, may they be a benefit for all beings, for all sentient life, now and through time. Thank you so much for the honor to be here.
Thank you so much. All my sisters, let's give our love to these amazing women. Claire, Magdalena, Juanita, Sarah, thank you so much for your presence here and for your wisdom. And as we offer our love and appreciation to you, I also want to offer my love and appreciation to the wisdom within every woman that is in this circle, that is here today. We are all the teachers and the students, as Sarah Drew so beautifully put it. We are all the wise women. And I just want to thank you so much. And ask that if you can stay for 10 more minutes as Shayna and I say some closing remarks and also give you a little bit of a heads up on what's to come. Now that we're completing day 1, we have day 2 and day 3. So Shayna, I'm going to speak a little bit about the next few days and about just a little bit more about global sisterhood, but I wanted to pass it to you to speak your heart.
Wow. Whew. Wow, Claire, Magdalena, Juanita, Sarah. Thank you for bringing that full presence here. It like reverberated through my being and this larger entity that makes up this collective of all of us. I've been watching the chat and watching each of you as you participate and the presence that you've brought to this gathering. And so it's so nice to see so many faces that I see in circle, and to hear your questions, and for you to share your wisdom through the chat and to participate with your full presence in whatever way that meant, even if it was resting and taking some space and moving and being present to the experience that you were having through this experience, because that is the medicine of the feminine, being present for whatever shows up. I'm looking at all of you now. Carla, hello. Phoebe, Beth Draper, hello. You know, this gathering, this coming together as women is such a blessing to be able to do in this time. Oh, I see Anne-Marie, hello. Oh, it's such a great honor, right? Our ancestors have walked so far to be able to give us this blessing of being here together, to gather in safety and with heart connection with each other through this incredible portal of technology. That we can come together and gather as sisters, as we have throughout eons, except, you know, in a different way. And so it is a great gift. So I want to mention that, you know, this is a free event and this is done with our heart, but if you feel called to contribute, we have ways that you can contribute. We'll be sending out an email afterward. I will also be sending you all the details of all the speakers and their work and their offerings. And so you can partake in any of the things that they offer and the work that they do and the love that they share with each one of you. And yeah, I recommend that you follow your heart. These women that spoke to you, seek them out. They have websites and courses and other kinds of offerings, charities, and yeah, participate. This is the work that we do together. The more that we can figure out ways to come together, that we can align our heart's missions with each other to support the work that each of us is doing. You know, this is how we create this new way. I always think about how in nature, there is no tree that is 5 miles tall. You know, natural systems create biodiversity because that is the essence of life. It's helping one another thrive. And so how do we feed and nourish and nurture one another and each other's creations without extracting and taking from the other? There is space for all of us. There's space for all of our voices and for all of the missions that we are called to. And so we also urge you, if you have something to share, to reach out to us. And we can find more ways that we can support you and support one another. And that's the work we do here at Global Sisterhood. It's really to elevate each of our voices, to sit in circle and to remember the inherent power that we all have when we come together. And so, Lauren, I will pass it to you to share about the rest of this experience. I just want to again thank each one of you for your presence and for your ancestors and the work that, you know, each one of us has brought forth to be here in this moment. So thank you.
In the places where whispers carry memories, where you hold your breath, turn away, and believe yourself less.
That's not me. I don't know where that's coming from.
You know, right?
That is my poem, yeah, but where's it coming from?
Somebody must be on mute. We'll figure it out. It had to be heard again. Oh, so I want to just share a little bit about this moment in time for global sisterhood, because this is an anniversary for us. International Women's Day is when we were birthed. In 2016, we made a call out to women everywhere. We did not know that this was going to become a movement. We did not know that there was going to be women's circles in over 100 countries. We did not know that this was going to be something that continued. This was a prayer. It was a prayer deep within our hearts to have women come together and to talk about what was not being talked about, was not being spoken about. And this was pre-Me Too. It was pre this new wave of shadow being revealed. And that prayer was answered. Women heard that call inside their hearts, and we came together. We launched with 650 women's circles in 65 countries 5 years ago in 2016. And we all synchronized doing the same rituals and meditations. We were not connected through technology, through Zoom. We were all in our own pods, but connected through the energetic web that unites us all. And many of you who are on this call today were there at the very beginning. Marcella, many of you, I want to honor you. I want to thank you for hearing that call. Many of whom never had been in circle, didn't even know what circle was, took it upon themselves, used our resources, and began to hold space, and are continuing to hold space. And since that day, women are gathering every month with different tools and resources and a theme that we provide. And we're doing this work, we're having these conversations, and we are learning to trust ourselves and learning to lift each other up. And as Claire so beautifully spoke about how to heal what had happened to our sisterhood, I believe that we have been doing that so well. So I want to commend all of the women who have felt it in their hearts to live and breathe this mission. And so if you desire to continue with us and continue with this mission, I invite you to stay tuned, to continue to lead a circle potentially. We have trainings for that if you would like. And in regards to this beautiful event, our 5-year anniversary, tomorrow is the day of inward reflection. So tomorrow you'll receive an email in your inbox that is about it's a personal ritual that is to help you find, or just remember, reclaim, dive into, strengthen, deepen your own personal medicine, your feminine gifts to share. And so this is something you can do in small pods or by yourself. And so you'll be getting that email early in the morning. And then on International Women's Day, March 8th, on Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT, we are going to have our anniversary of our global synchronized meditation. So the meditation that every single circle has done on the new moon and on International Women's Day, we are going to do again. We're going to have Sarah and Claire there holding space and ceremony, and a special guest from a dear friend who is the daughter of a chief in the tribe Yawanawa. Her name is Kenuma. She's going to be opening up our ceremony, sharing her wisdom and singing a traditional song for us. And she comes from a very strong line of women, and we can tell you a little bit more about that on Monday. So I hope you will join us. Can we just do a shake? We've been here for a long time. I want to just do a shake. Maybe a howl. Anybody want to howl with me? Ow, ow, ow! So my sisters, our day, our beautiful day for today, our journey together is coming to an end and coming to a completion. And so with love in my heart and with deep gratitude, I want to bow to you all. Thank you. All right, so Destiny, we're going to take everybody off mute and we're all going to say goodbye.
Okay, I'm going to do it. Ask all to unmute.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
Everyone.
Bye.
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 Love
Love,
you.
love, 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 love,
Thank
love.
you.
Bye.
Love, love,
Here.
Bye.
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 One of you. Be
Thank
blessed.
you.
Bye. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
So great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Love you all.
With our freaking crazy flirt. Bye
Happy
bye.
birthday. Love you all. Happy birthday. In sorrow
Thank you.
and joy.
Thank you so much.
Until we meet again.
Looking forward to tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you so, so, so much.
Bye-bye.
Blessings to women everywhere.
Love you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
I love
Much
you.
gratitude.
I love you. I love you. I love you. Love you.
Oh, sing. Aloha. Aloha. Peaceful child.
I'm gonna leave.
Mi canto, gracias a la vida que me ha dado tanto.